Alright, what's up? Back again with another video. In this one, I want to tell y'all what I think the number one free resource is for beginning artists and why. Alright, so there's a bunch of free resources for people that are trying to learn art. They're all over the internet. I myself have spent a ton of time Googling, YouTubing, Redditing, trying to find the best resource for myself at the time, and just searching and searching and searching, and really not ever finding anything, finding a lot of free resources and enough to get started on drawing stuff. So that's what I did. I grabbed a pen and then I just started drawing, and I drew a lot, and I learned a little bit while I was doing that. And drawing is good practice for the most part, no matter what you're drawing, I think, at least. But I do think that I could have been served better by having a sort of game plan or one path to follow, because that was my biggest struggle. Was I'd find one YouTube video on drawing the head, or here's how you draw hands, or here's the figure drawing fundamentals. But I couldn't find anything that would take me from not an artist at all, not knowing how to draw at all, to able to draw what I wanted to draw, whatever that may be. And then I found drawabox. And drawabox, I think, for a few reasons, is the number one free resource for beginners, especially if you're self-teaching or trying to learn on your own. The biggest reason is because it's free. Like I said, there's a lot of free resources out there. Tons of really talented artists and teachers make great videos or great lessons on how to draw something or one of the fundamental aspects. Not going to name any names, but a lot of times they'll release a little bit of information, and then the rest of the information will be behind a paywall of some sort. Whether it's paying for a course or paying for feedback or paying for whatever. To get the whole shebang, you normally have to pay at some point. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people that are professional artists and professional teachers that have all this information and knowledge to offer, I think they should be compensated for offering it. So I'm not trying to throw hate or shade at anybody. But if you are just a beginner and you don't even really know how far into drawing you want to go or where to start, you probably don't want to spend $50, $100, $500, however many dollars it is on a course, because that's a big commitment, and you just are probably feeling unsure that it'll be worth it to spend that amount of money. Even if it's $20, it's kind of hard to convince yourself to buy something for a hobby that you really don't know. And if you're like me, you probably feel like, I can learn how to do this on my own. For whatever reason, I kind of have that mentality where I think I can learn anything, because why not? People learn stuff all the time. But it makes it hard to want to shell out money for something if I'm a little uncertain about what I'm getting, or if it's going to be worth it, or if I'm going to use it to the amount where I think it would be worth that amount of money. Again, no hate or shade to people that are doing that. A lot of those guys doing that have just insane years of experience. They're insane levels of artists. A lot of them are very good teachers. I'll get into some more specific art courses and stuff like that in future videos, because they're not always good teachers. Sometimes they're just good artists, and you got to be able to differentiate those things. I don't want to get into that right now, just saying that. Anyway, drawabox, you don't have to pay for it at all. Totally free. You can access it 100% gratis. You can, if you want to, join a Patreon and pay, I should have looked it up, I forget. I want to say it's $5 a month for feedback. It might be 10, it might be 5. You'll have to check yourself. I've never paid for it, and I never will. And you don't have to either. And I think what that course does especially well is it takes you from 0 to 100. You go all the way from not even being able to make a line, a straight line. Can't draw anything, not even a stick figure that you like. And then at the end of it, you're drawing inorganic, hard material objects like cars and boats and things like that, which are, if you don't know anything about drawing, I'm gonna say, at least for me, those inorganic mechanical things are difficult to draw. They're harder to draw than more organic things like rocks and trees. So it's a pretty impressive feat to go from not being able to draw a line to being able to draw those things. Also, just a little bit about the course heritage, which I think is super key, is that Uncomfortable, the person that made drawabox and created it into a course, what caused that to come about was he took a course called Dynamic Sketching from Peter Hahn, one of those really great artists and instructors that teaches people. He still teaches dynamic sketching, and you can still take it for the low price of $800. You can take Peter Hahn's course and forget about Dropbox. I don't know about you, I've never spent $800 on a course for a hobby. If you've got that kind of money, by all means, go for it. I'm sure it's worth it. And the reason I say that is because of not just Peter Hahn's years of experience as an artist. He works in the entertainment industry, and he's created art. I'm a huge fan of his art. I actually have his book that's based on his course, Dynamic Sketching. The book is called The Dynamic Bible. But he inherited this course from someone else called Norm. I forget Norm's last name. He passed away. Peter Hahn took it over. And what that means is the course has gone through years and years and years of evolution. And they've taught hundreds of students, probably thousands, over the years, and they've learned how to teach this course, which covers, going from not being able to draw basically anything to being able to draw complex things using the construction method. The construction method it's a little different than just observational drawing. You still do observational drawing, but you construct the three-dimensional forms. And that's how you do it. You don't just look at something and say, okay, there's a line here and a line there. And what that helps a person do, or what it's helped me do, is when you draw those forms and you learn the underlying 3D forms of the objects you're drawing, you're then able to replicate them and draw them again. And you can draw them at different angles and things like that. And that is super powerful, because then you could draw something from observation once or a couple of times or whatever. Down the road, you think, I want to draw a picture with one of those things in it, and you can draw it. And you can draw it wherever you want, from whatever angle you want, because you know it's this form attached to this form, and so on and so forth. And that is incredibly powerful. It's a really cool thing to be able to do. Now, like I said, you can pay to get specific to you feedback from the drawabox website. I believe now, because it's so large, it's Uncomfortable, and then he has a couple other people that work for him that he trusts their judgment to give appropriate feedback to students. But you don't have to pay for feedback. There's a subreddit and there's a Discord. Those places are free. I believe the Drawabox website also has a forum that you might be able to post in. So you can post your homework from the lessons, and you can get feedback specific to you for each specific lesson for free. And that, again, is just a crazy powerful thing to have access to, because that will escalate your rate of progress, I think, incredibly so. One of the things I've struggled with is trying to find a way to get feedback throughout my journey, and I think it's something that has tended to hold me back. Because if you can get specific to you feedback on what you're, I don't want to say doing wrong, but maybe what you could be doing differently with your drawing, you'll just really increase the quality of your work exponentially. So that free feedback is not always easy to get. It's not always perfect, so take that with, a grain of salt. But it's there. Then the fact that you can get it at all is pretty impressive. Again, for free. And if you find that you can't find quality feedback for free, there is always that option to pay through Patreon for a little bit more specific feedback from a little more qualified person. All of that combined, I think, is what makes Drawabox just absolutely the best resource that I've found for people that are beginners. Especially free resource. Again, that cannot be overstated. These courses that a lot of these other people are selling are probably totally worth the cost of admission. And I want to believe them when they say they're trying to make art education accessible by teaching online. But I believe a lot of it is still pretty inaccessible to beginners, to people that are just starting out. You don't know if you want to spend $20 on a course if you've never drawn anything. You just want to try it out and try and learn to have fun and things like that. And I think that's what Drawabox does. That's what it gives you. And if you follow the lessons, and each lesson has an exercise or exercises with it, the homework. If you follow the lessons and you do the homework and you go through the process, you will be able to go from having never drawn anything, not even making a line, to being able to draw a car if you want. I will say, or I'll give this caveat to Drawabox. It is very dry, and parts of it can seem very, very tedious. And that's unfortunate, because I think it loses a lot of people. It's lost me several times. I've tried to do it. Spoiler alert, I've never actually made it all the way to the car. I still think it's the best free resource, because what it did was it made me go from not being able to draw anything to being able to draw 3D forms in a 3D space and having a real understanding and grasp of how to draw them and represent them so that they obey the rules of three-dimensionality. And what that did was that allowed me to draw anything, whatever I want. And that's the whole point of Drawabox. The whole point is not to draw a box, or 250 boxes, or 100 cylinders, or 10 insects, or 20 cars, or 150 tires. That's not the point. It's not the freaking point. The point is for you to learn to grasp three-dimensionality and be able to translate that from your brain onto your paper, which is a two-dimensional piece of paper. And it does that very effectively. And once you learn that, you can then do whatever you want. So that's something to bear in mind. There's some dryness, there's some tedium, and you're also going to make probably a million ugly drawings. But the point is not to make pretty drawings of any specific subject. The point is to be able to understand and translate three-dimensional form onto two-dimensional paper. Once you can do that and do it effectively, the world's your oyster. You've learned how to draw, basically. Obviously, you're going to have to practice, and you're going to have to draw things to get really good and convincing with your art. But once you've grasped that component of it, you've really jumped over what I feel is one of the higher hurdles that you'll have to jump over to learn how to draw. You never actually have to learn how to do that. You can just draw stuff with lines and shapes and value. I do think it makes stuff look flat. So that's just kind of my opinion. I think probably some other people would probably agree with it. But if Drawabox is not your thing, or if you don't want to draw convincing 3D objects on 2D paper, and you want to just draw something that is more graphic and flat, you totally can. Like I said, #1 free resource for beginner artists or people teaching themselves how to draw. You don't have to abide by that or anything like that. So, all of that being said, if you are just a beginner I would urge you and encourage you to check out Drawabox, and you can read through the lessons and the explanations. There's a lot of other good stuff in there. He's got some comics and some articles and things like that that talk about having the right mindset and the 50-50 rule, only spending maximum 50% of your time actually doing lessons and drills, the other 50% drawing things you want to draw. He goes over how to make a line, how to draw with your shoulder, not your fingers, stuff like that. And it's all super, super important, and it'll all come into play. And if nothing else, I would just implore to you the greatness of the resource, I guess, if you're looking for free resources to teach yourself how to draw. If you're already beyond that, or you have no need for that, then, ignore this advice. Yeah, that's all I got. It is a great resource. So, anyway, I hope you've had good holidays, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. All right, peace.